Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:06, and you're listening to O'Connor and Company this Wednesday, 6th day of March, post-Super Tuesday hangover for one and all. I'll admit it, I was up a little later than I should have. Why? There was no suspense. But I wanted to watch the reaction. I wanted to watch the...
Well, the meltdowns were kind of fun.
Yeah. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas, 7:05, spokesperson for the RNC, Madison Gilbert. 7:35, Bethany Mandel, running for Montgomery County School Board. 8:05, Rich Masters of the Recall Charles Allen campaign. And 8:35, Hogan Gidley on what's ahead for the Trump campaign. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
We have been marveling at the evolution of John Fetterman. You know, he suffered a stroke, as we know, the Saturday before primary Tuesday back in 2022 when he was trying to win the Democrats' nomination for Senate. And, of course, we were told that it was a very minor stroke and he's fine. And clearly, by the time we got, within a month of Election Day, it was obvious that he was not fine.
Right.
He had serious mental incapacity. But everyone lied about it, and the media lied about it, and he was enabled, and he beat Oz Mehmet.
Yep.
Dr. Oz, and won the Senate seat in Pennsylvania. Then about a month into his term, he had to check himself into Walter Reed.
For
and
depression.
We were told it was severe depression.
Yeah.
And there were all these rumors around town that basically his wife was going to take over the Senate seat, that he was mentally incapacitated.
Yeah, and let's not forget also before he checked himself in, they tried to put him out there at Senate hearings, and he had a very hard time talking, even with the sort of the assistants that it was pretty grim.
Yeah. Then when he emerged from Walter Reed, he demanded that he wear a hoodie on the floor of the Senate and in committee hearings because it gave him the SADs to wear a suit and tie.
Schumer allowed it until Dick Durbin
for about 4
complained.
days, and then Durbin was like, "Come on, man, can we just get him out of here so the wife can take over and she can be in charge and then be president someday?" So that was, and then. Throughout that entire process, Fetterman, we'll be honest, we sort of, we mocked a bit here.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, this is ridiculous. This is an insult to the Senate. It's an insult to the voters.
That hasn't changed, in my opinion.
Oh, so they lied to the voters, and they tried just because they needed to get him in there so they could maintain their majority, all that jazz. But then suddenly something started happening with John Fetterman. It started with Israel, I think, if I remember right. When he started facing off against these pro-Hamas terrorists.
Was it that or the border? It was one of, but he also made comments about the border.
He has suddenly now become a very interesting voice of reason in the Senate.
Calling a spade,
Yeah.
not engaging in this silly gaslighting of Americans.
And I think that it's. You're right. There have been various little incidents where he's spoken common sense. Oh, and coming out against Bob Menendez and saying this is ridiculous that Menendez is in the Senate and over in the House they're kicking out poor George Santos, and stuff like that. And suddenly it's like, well, what's going on with John Fetterman? He's supporting Israel and going beyond supporting Israel. He's walking out face to face with the protesters, wrapping himself literally in the Israeli flag and calling them who they are. He just recently said that he's willing to compromise with House Republicans and they can have pretty much everything in H.R. 2, which would legitimately fix our border problem and part of the asylum problem that we've got right now in exchange for funding for Ukraine, which I think they could work out a deal like that, I think. But now there's this. And honestly, this might be the final straw for his Democrat colleagues. Fetterman might have to declare himself an independent if he's going to go forward with this.
Well, we need one.
He just sent a letter to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, specifically with regard to funding this is how they do things, by the way, under HUD. Housing and Urban Development. They fund this nefarious stuff through everyone. HUD, of course, you don't want to stand in the way of HUD funding because HUD funding goes to, low-income people so they can have a roof over their head.
Yeah.
Why do you hate low-income people? Why do you want to keep them on the streets? Give the HUD money. Stop ending the HUD money. Here's what they're doing with the HUD money. The HUD money under EDI, the project is called the William Way Renovation and Expansion Project in Philadelphia. at the William Way LGBT Community Center. HUD money for a gay and transgender community center. The project purpose, as originally requested, the William Way renovation and expansion project would renovate and expand the existing community center into an inclusive, fully accessible, and welcoming space for all individuals to gather, learn, and receive
Why
support.
wasn't it before?
Yeah, right, exactly. But here's the problem. That money is actually going to help transition children.
Right, and also host things like the monthly kink party. That's
Yeah.
nice. But you're right. And, oh, my gosh.
And in this letter, John Fetterman says to his Democrat chairman, Brian Schatz, Senator Schatz, after further review, I am withdrawing my support and request the removal of the below fiscal year congressionally directed spending project included in the Senate Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. He is pulling his funding from that center.
And so is Senator Casey, which is also interesting.
Also in Pennsylvania. Well, it's interesting only if you think that this is not a issue that resonates with voters.
Specifically working class voters.
And Bob Casey is up for re-election in Pennsylvania this year.
Yeah, this is interesting. This spending bill, the money that was earmarked $1 million in taxpayer money toward a Philadelphia-based group that hosts monthly bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism, fetish parties. I mean, in a community center, again, that's taxpayer funded.
Taxpayer funded through HUD and transportation.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that drives people nuts. This is how they hide this money. So Fetterman's saying, no, I'm not going to spend money on taxpayer money on this renovation of this center in Philadelphia that does bondage and fetish parties and encourages the transition of minors.
Yeah.
And
good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Again, we go back to our conversation about Kirsten Sinema. It's like he gets credit for this. Why should he get credit for this?
I know.
It's basic common sense. Of course, our federal transportation and housing and urban development money shouldn't be going for crap like this.
I get it. We talk about sort of this Barry Weiss effect, or, the New York Times just did an article saying maybe the transitioning children isn't a great idea. And we're all like, seal claps, seal claps. And
So
meanwhile, conservatives have been beating this drum for a decade.
And investigated by the FBI for doing so.
Yes, exactly. And regular parents, but also conservative groups. And we get nothing. And then the New York Times, and frankly, Barry Weiss was sort of late to this party too, even though she's been an absolute hero at this point. But I get it. I get this sort of frustration with Fetterman just now coming to the realization that maybe this isn't a good idea.
Listen, I've believed what I've believed for many years, but I've only believed it publicly for 15 years. And I can tell you, it ain't easy to be. It's still not easy 15 years later to sort of be in the forefront on this stuff. If you're a Democrat, if you're a Democrat senator, or even worse, if you work at the New York Times, you are absolutely under fire if you do this. So we only half joke about this. This is a big deal for him to buck his own party.
It's a cult. It really is.
That's right. And he's starting to be deprogrammed.
Yeah.
First it was Israel, then it was the border, then Bob Menendez and corruption, and now it's LGBTQ stuff. And it'll be interesting to see what's next from the junior senator of Pennsylvania, John Frankenstein Fetterman. No, he still looks like a monster. Let's face it. Come on.
Goonies.
But not the rich. Goonies.
Mark Levin, weeknights from 6 till 9.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
And I'm trying to make sense of this story out of Loudoun County. And there, I'll be honest up front with you, there are still a lot of questions here that need to be answered.
This is wild.
And let's face it, elected officials, especially Democrats in Loudoun County, aren't great at answering questions.
That's sort of a track record.
And this one involves one who is, historic in terms of her obstinance and her arrogance. Buta, the long-gone Commonwealth's attorney, but boy, is her presence still felt.
Still does have a great name, though.
The beautiful county of Loudoun. Our friend Nick Minnock of WJLA is reporting that multiple sources within the Commonwealth's attorney's office say that multiple photos of former Loudoun County Commonwealth's attorneys, and we're talking going back to like the
1800s.
19th century. Yeah, these are all historic photos of the Commonwealth's attorneys who have served Loudoun County. multiple portraits and photos are missing.
This is so weird.
They're just gone. They were last seen when Buta Biberai was in office. Some of these are completely irreplaceable.
These are historic. I mean, as in there were no reproductions. Yeah. There were no copies.
These aren't Polaroids. These aren't digital shots.
Yes.
These were like the old, what was it? The silver iodine Kodak
Hey, kiddos,
Kodachrome
let me
stuff.
explain to you how photos used to be taken.
This is pre-film in some cases.
Off the phone.
So the portraits and photographs of the previous Commonwealth's attorneys, according to Nick Minnock, are part of Loudoun County history. The county needs to have them back, obviously, says Loudoun County Commonwealth's attorney Bob Anderson, who defeated Buta Biberai. Now, again, we don't know who took them. We don't know if it was her or her staff, but we know it's like a criminal investigation, right? Okay, these are missing. When did you last see them? Well, we last saw them when this lady was in charge, and now we don't know where they are.
The reporting here says that this is part of a county person saying that it is our understanding that these photographs have been displayed in a foyer or lobby area of the previous office.
Yeah.
And then they said they might have been sent to county. But as you said, you're right. They're gone. And it does make you wonder if she had some sort of
We've given you the facts. We are now about to speculate. Okay, just so you know, because there are, like I said, a lot of questions. And the facts are these are missing. The fact is they went missing under Buta Biberai, and that's all we know. And we're trying to find out where these pictures are.
Okay.
So speculation?
Well, this isn't speculation. This is still in the report.
All right.
It says the Department of General Services, county staff at the Department of General Services identified a work order dated January 31st, 2023, submitted by the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office.
Last year.
Yes, so it's still Buta, requesting this office to pick up, among a number of other items, one box of photos and other wall decorations for disposal.
For disposal?
For disposal.
Wow.
They said that it was picked up and disposed of shortly thereafter. No record on if those.
We don't know if those were the photos, and we don't know what the. So, can I speculate?
Yes.
Either Buta Biberai herself or one of her woke prosecutors, who, of course, never prosecuted anyone.
Right.
Walked past these pictures, took a look at who they were, and said, well, these are racist segregationists.
That's right. Yep.
These are racist segregationists, and I'm triggered.
Yes.
And these need to be removed.
These are white guys.
Worse than white guys. Virginia. Segregationist, racist,
colonial,
pro-Confederacy.
Yes.
They've got to go. That's not who we are in this
you're
office.
Right. And honestly, of course, this is speculation, but you just wonder, look, we have been seeing this since the riots.
They're willing to tear down statues. They're going to take pictures off the wall.
They're willing to do this theater of melting down Robert E. Lee. Yes, exactly. Yes. So this sort of tracks. It also tracks that Marxists do love to destroy history.
That's right.
And she's made it pretty clear. She's pretty sympathetic to Marxism. So
in true Buta Biberai fashion, I would like to say that as of now, she and her office are guilty until proven innocent. So let's go.
There you go.
It's 6:21. Oh my gosh, do you know what this weekend is? Do you know what this weekend is? March 10th.
Tell me.
Daylight savings time. Spring forward, baby. Now, are you annoyed that you're going to lose an hour, or are you annoyed that you're going to gain sunshine?
Both.
Or that you're going to be an hour early for everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I just am annoyed by it.
I'm annoyed by the process because it's time to lock this in, right?
Yeah, and we say that every
year. I know, and I don't quite get why this doesn't happen. Marco Rubio has been leading the charge on this, and he's been trying to pass this legislation. And here he is on the Senate floor making the case yet again. A lot of people don't know Marco Rubio was a Cher impersonator. That's how he paid his way through college. Well, he was a humble child of immigrants. Did you know that his father was a bartender?
Okay, that seems...
Don't you remember that from the campaign?
No,
it's like
he
told the same story at every campaign stop. Yeah. But he left out the part about being a Cher impersonator. Kidding. He's not a drag queen. But Marco Rubio is right on this issue. It's time to stop with the springing forward and the falling back. He's calling it the Sunshine Protection Act, and he said it would end this stupid process of changing our clocks back and forth. especially now that we live in a digital age, and we aren't locked in the same way as we used to be in terms of your typical Monday through Friday 9-to-5 job. And I mean, everything is fluid these days.
Yes.
There really is no 40-hour work week anymore. There is no 8-hour work day anymore. It's an antiquated thing of the past. Here we talked about compromise a lot today, right? I have always said that we should lock it in on daylight savings time, but I know that a lot of people are passionate about it being too dark in the winter time, and that's unsafe and all that stuff. There's the compromise. Fine. I think most reasonable people want to lock in on daylight savings time because you have more sunshine later in the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to driving it in the middle of the morning and middle of the night, right? But I'll compromise. Lock it in on regular standard time if that's what you just pick one, pick a lane.
Pick one.
And lock it in.
Honestly, it's
so
antiquated.
I don't understand
I don't either. I don't.
What is the case for it at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I remember all these arguments like, people used to get up early to tend to the crops. I think that's
there still are some people who do that,
yeah.
but they'll persevere either way.
I mean, agriculture has evolved a lot, so I'm not sure that they need us to all change our clocks back.
So we stand with Marco Rubio and his stunning performance as Barbara Streisand from Funny Girl. It's 6:29.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37 on O'Connor and Company, and we are just charging straight ahead here on this Wednesday in your nation's capital. It's 7:05. Helping us out will be the spokesperson for the RNC, Madison Gilbert. 7:35, Bethany Mandel, running for Montgomery County School Board. 8:05, Rich Masters of the Recall Charles Allen campaign on yesterday's crime bill vote. And then at 8:35, our buddy Hogan Gidley on the primaries and the breaking news. Julie Gunlock, good morning.
Good morning.
That Nikki Haley will be dropping out of the race, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Really?
But she, no endorsement of Donald Trump imminent. By the way, the people who run the no labels thing, they said that by this Friday, they plan on naming who their candidate's going to be. Are we looking at a Haley cinema ticket? Let's ask Cal Thomas, who joins us now. He's forgotten more about Super Tuesdays and presidential politics than most people will ever know. Good morning, Cal.
Good morning, guys. Before we get into the less important stuff here this morning,
Yes.
You may remember that the president announced a task force yesterday to fight shrinkflation.
Yes.
So I've been counting my Cheerios this morning, and he's right. There are 5 fewer in the current box than in the last box I bought. This is an outrage, and it's something that needs to be addressed more than the border. And I have a recommendation for the Republicans sitting there, and I hope they remain seated. Tomorrow night for the State of the Union, I think they all ought to have little bags of Fritos and they munch on them throughout the entire speech. Now let's get to the really important stuff.
I'll be honest, Cal. Usually when a guest mentions shrinkflation, I'm very worried about what direction it's going to take. But I'm glad that you did that. The good news is Joe Biden does have his shrinkflation czar nominated. It's the Cookie Monster, and he's going to be all over it for you. So you just heard the news. It's just broken the last 20 minutes or so. Wall Street Journal reporting Nikki Haley will drop out of the race. What do you think she's planning to do here? Because I think it might be too late to sort of win back a lot of the ill will she might have with the Republican base.
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, she's been hitting Trump very hard on the age issue, on that we need a new generation of younger people. We can't go on like this. He's going to bring chaos. I mean, you can't just flip and say, okay, I'm going to endorse him now. But this is a very serious election. Whatever one thinks of Trump, if people didn't vote for him in the primary, we've got a bigger issue in November. Do we want a continuation of the Biden policies with the open border especially and all of these other crazy things, the spending that keeps putting us deeper and deeper in debt, or do we want somebody, whatever his baggage may be, to actually fix these things? Yeah. And Trump was on the way to fixing them in his last term, or his only term so far. So I don't know what she's going to do. I'm not sure she knows what she's going to do, but I can't see her endorsing Trump, at least in the short term. She claims she's a Republican. It's not going to go no labels, but then she's claimed some other things she's flipped on, too.
Yeah,
so who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't understand what her why she stayed in as long as she did, unless she's going for sort of the book deals and the CNN contract and all that. It's all very confusing. But I wanted to ask you, Cal, about a weird moment at the White House where a reporter yelled out to President Biden about, why he asked him, why is Trump leading in the polls? And Biden came back to the
mic. Here, take a listen. Here's how it went.
You guys didn't report. I'm winning 5 in a row. You guys only look at the New York Times. They're a great paper.
So he said, I'm winning in the last 5 polls. That's not true. In the last 5 polls, he's losing. And in 3 of 5 polls, and those 2 that he is winning, so he's only up by 1. I mean, is his staff
and he's losing by 4 in the New York Times poll,
exactly.
which is what he just
cited. What he cited. Is his campaign staff and his White House staff lying to him?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know about Washington. I mean, lying is something that everybody does. It should be copyrighted. I think he's in total denial. There's no question. And instead of saying these things, he ought to say, watch my speech tomorrow night, the State of the Union. We're going to get some things settled here, and I'm the best hope for America. But just denying the obvious, it's like saying the border is secure.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are in just total denial. Are you going to believe your lying eyes or the facts? It's terrible. It's really terrible. And I think it adds to the perception that he is completely out of touch, even with himself and his own administration.
There's a suggestion that the theme of tomorrow night's State of the Union from President Biden, the great uniter, the man who will heal the wounds in South, the theme will be, whose side are you on? That's a heck of a statement for the great uniter.
Well, not only that, but as I'm saying in my column for tomorrow on this subject, this is a term that goes back to the Red Scare of the 1950s and the Joe McCarthy era. Whether McCarthy saw commies in the State Department and behind every tree, and whose side are you on? Red China, Red Russia, or Red America? And I'm just amazed at this, that he would draw out that old phrase. And again, as you pointed out, Larry, this is not the kind of thing that unifies the country. This divides us even further.
I wonder if Speaker Johnson will stand up and say, "At long last, sir, have you no shame?"
Wouldn't that be something? Well, he's kind of a short guy, so I don't know if you'd notice if he stood up or not. But I'll tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see seat belts on every seat. This whack-a-mole thing, every State of the Union where they pop up and down, and the phony cheering, and that Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee positioning herself on the aisle so she can get a photo op with the president coming down the aisle. It's just all nasty. I wouldn't watch it if I didn't have to. I'm going to probably shrink. All
right, Cal Thomas. I don't see that happening anytime soon. With a gratuitous slam on our Speaker of the House, who he's not the tall. Not everyone can be the center of the basketball team like you, Cal.
Well, I know, but at least he could rise her shoes like Ron DeSantis.
No.
And that's Cal Thomas for today. Thank you, Cal. Nikki Haley, as we have been discussing for the last 30 minutes, she is officially now, according to the Wall Street Journal, and now confirmed by other news outlets, will be dropping out. She's giving remarks later today in Charleston, in her home state of South Carolina. This is after a pretty thorough drubbing on Super Tuesday yesterday. Currently, she's still under 100 delegates. There are only 1,215 delegates needed for the nomination. President Trump at the moment has 995.
But she won Vermont.
She did win Vermont and the District of Columbia. Whoever leaked this information about Haley dropping out was quick to add that she has no plans to endorse Donald Trump at this time. Yeah. But as Cal Thomas just points out, how exactly can you at this point? I mean, I guess politicians always figure it out. And also,
think about who is an ally of Trump.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ted Cruz. Well, after it was exposed that Ted's dad helped assassinate Fidel Castro, or was it assassinating JFK? I can't remember.
Kind of suggested his wife wasn't attractive. I mean, there are multiple examples of Trump being enormously insulting.
Yes, but Nikki Haley has integrity.
Well, in fact, but I think Trump has been kind of easy on Haley. He's
been ignoring her lately.
Yeah, he's been ignoring her, which, is practically civilized for Trump. So, I wouldn't be surprised if she came around and ends up in his cabinet. Nothing surprises me these days.
That's true. I honestly, how can you be surprised? in politics. Absolutely. So, all right, so we'll see what Nikki Haley does. Although I do want to examine this idea that the no labels thing is still looming. So no labels has raised a lot of money.
Yeah.
Money, last I checked, an attractive, sort of lure in American politics. Politicians like it when you've got a lot of money. They've also gone through the work to get qualified on every single ballot come November. They've also said that this, which, by the way, this blows apart the lie that is no labels. We need to find a third way. They have said that the one criteria they have for their candidate is that they're not going to have anyone who would help Donald Trump, which tells you exactly what they're all about.
They're Democrats.
Yeah, there's a label for this, right. Actually. There's many labels for it. Nikki Haley fits that bill. Nikki Haley absolutely fits that bill. The money part, certainly. The fact that she'd be on all the states.
And the fact that she has said, I will not endorse Donald Trump.
At this time, she says.
Right.
And here's the thing. Everybody's been saying, why is Nikki doing this? Why is Nikki doing this? If you think about it for Nikki Haley's own personal political success, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. There's no play here. The only prism that you can shoot it through where it suddenly makes sense is if her sole intention is to harm Donald Trump's chances in November. If you think that that's what she's trying to achieve, well, then it all sort of makes more sense.
It kind of doesn't to me, though, still, because she has never presented herself as this sort of frothing never Trumper.
That's right. That's the devious, clever nature of it.
She is not like writing op-eds for the Bulwark or, having podcasts with Jonah. It's really confusing to me. She's not Liz Cheney.
No, but the people who are funding the Bulwark and those people are also funding her campaign. She's just taking a different approach to it. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Let's face it, like right now, the only other third-party candidate out there is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And based on every single measure, that is damaging to Joe Biden.
Yes.
That it hurts. It hurts in important states to have a viable third option and it being RFK Jr.
Yep.
All right. That hurts the Democrat. The only way to fix that for Joe Biden
is to hurt Trump.
Is to either somehow get RFK out of there, which is not going to happen, or you bring somebody else in who will hurt Trump in the same way RFK hurts Biden. And Nikki Haley could do that.
Yep,
that's right.
It's true.
So watch that space. I don't know. It's a long shot. I don't know. I mean, that would certainly be the end of any sort of future Republican chances for her, but maybe she's already sort of resolved the fact that's it. No Labels has raised this money. They've gotten qualified on all these ballots. They first wanted Joe Manchin. They wanted Larry Hogan. They wanted Mitt Romney.
Haley's Cinema?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Haley Cinema. What do you think?
Could be.
All right. We'll
That's a girl power there.
Yeah. You think that'll get some
Nikki will love that.
glowing
she
media
talk
coverage?
About her heels more.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll see. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it is certainly a scenario that fits the pattern of what we've seen here. We shall see. Like I said, the No Labels people said that they wanted to have a candidate firmed up and committed by this Friday. So timing works out there as well. Watch the space. We'll see what happens. Either way, the big headline, Nikki Haley, as of later this morning in Charleston, will announce that she's officially withdrawing. That makes Trump the presumptive nominee, by the way. We're going to bounce all of this off of the spokesperson for the Republican National Committee coming up at 7:05, Madison Gilbert, because this is going to affect her job.
Yeah.
Because the second Trump is the presumptive nominee, you then merge operations of the Trump campaign and the RNC, and boy, things are going to move fast. It's 6:54.
Making sense of your world.
I don't know where to begin.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Thanks for taking my call.
Making sense of the news.